Hi everyone, this is Sarah from Crafting and Relaxing, and the weather's good and I've been thinking about doing an outdoor project, and this seems funny to paint rocks. I get that, it's funny. My friend and I were in a store years ago at the beach and there was one, and I said, oh, I want that, and she said, I can't let you buy rocks. And so I understood what she was saying, so I wanted to show you a couple of examples. Here's one that I made years ago, and it says like magic, and it's a line from a movie, and I just used black paint and silver and blue, and I was just experimenting with different acrylics. Again, nothing fancy, just the cheap. You can use like the nicer Liquitex acrylics, whatever you have, and then I'll show you my stash, any paint markers or Sharpie pens that you have. Sharpie makes paint pens too that are pretty nice. So any of them will work fine. Just make sure the rocks are dry. Clean is good too, but dry is the most important thing. So I want to show you some gorgeous ones that somebody who loves me made for me. And so I don't know if you can tell in the video, but they have like a little bit of shimmer to them. Like she sprayed them with glitter and then clear coated them, or there was glitter in the clear coat, something like that. So those are super cute. And then here's one, this is what made me think of it today, and I was inspired. I was at a local store, it's like a pet food and farm supply kind of thing, and they had a take a rock, leave a rock, and this one was there that somebody made and has a star on it. So I'll make a rock and drop it off there, but I thought, okay, that's super fun. And then I wanted to show you this one that I made years ago, and you can see how it's held up and how it faded. I didn't clear coat this large one at all, and it was the first one I ever did, and it said originally put the paint was right here, on the canvas, and that was for my sister, because she says don't sit around and think about your projects, just do them. And I have a tendency to overthink them quite a bit. So I'm going to show you just on this. Painting on rocks is a little bit different than on canvas or anything else because it doesn't absorb, so it takes a little bit to get used to that. You can see I didn't shake up the paint very well. You can use whatever you have, so it could be these foam brushes, it could be a nice brush, it could be a sad tired interior trim paint brush that, you know, is sitting around and will work just fine. I didn't wash this rock because I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to have the dry time of it. But what I learned when I did this rock originally, I did it with a really dark purple, and some of my paint markers are translucent, so then they didn't work very well. So I was limited on the colors that I could use because I don't have full sets in every brand. So I thought, well, this time I'll just do a lighter version, and I'm going to write the same thing on the rock in the end, but I want it to show more paint colors. So it's just really that simple. This would be a great project for kids. It's great for gifts. Like these I keep inside and use them like paperweights. This one I also keep inside. I just got paint on it. Then I've had them out in my yard too. Years ago I had one that said, it was sitting next to a plant, and it said, Pooh, stop eating the plant so we can have some. And it said, from the slugs. My older dog loved a hybrid grass that I purchased, and I thought there was something wrong with the grass because it never got any bigger. Turns out it was her. You can use them outside. I have a section that's like a rock pathway, and there's rocks on each side, and I was thinking it would be pretty cute to write a saying, that like one word on each rock here and there, or maybe just a few stars, because I'm a sucker for stars, right? Here and there. Okay, there's my rock. Not exciting at all. And then I'm just gonna let that dry, okay? And then I'll come back when it's dry and use my paint markers and write on it. And if you're more artistic than I am, then you'll have prettier rocks, but it's just something to have fun with. And think about it, it's a rock. You didn't have to pay a thing for it, and if you don't like it, you can turn it over or put it outside in the rain, and years from now it'll wear off. If you do one that you love and you really want to protect it, then you spray them with the clear coat. I have a tendency to run out of clear coat, and I figure, well, I can always repaint it later. We'll let that dry and I'll come back. We're back and this has dried now, and it's not an overnight dry, but it should work to put the markers on. If I was using a brush, it would work a little better because it's not cured, so I'll have to be a little careful when I do the markers. And you can see that I have a lavender one over here. This one's still drying, but I thought I'd prep that one. If I was gonna have kids over to my house to do this project, I'd probably pre-paint the rocks and let them dry so that they were ready to go and there wasn't wait time for little kids. But it totally depends on how you want to do it. Moms have plenty to do and do not like to deal with paint. So years and years ago, I was going to babysit some of my friends' kids, and I said, we're going to do something today that Mommy would never let you do. And they knew we were going to paint. That was the first word out of their mouth. So it's just something to keep in mind if you're trying to keep kids busy during spring break, or you have guests of ages that you don't normally have. And you could find rocks at the river or somewhere nearby. This purple one was in my backyard. Okay. When I was off camera, I tested some of my pens and found out that most of them don't work anymore. So that's kind of funny. But just to give you an idea, you can test on the back. If this rock had never been painted before, I would be sure the whole thing was painted so it was sealed up. But it's nice to be able to turn the pen over and just be sure it's the color that you want. And it shows you how it's going to look on that paint. So if it won't show at all, you'll know. Now, you could pencil these out if you wanted to test it out. The point of my project is to just do it, essentially, right? Put the paint on the canvas. I am going to just take the marker and put it on the canvas, or the rock in this case, and it's less about how it looks in the end and more about whether I had fun doing it. Keep that in mind when you see how it turns out. So you just take your paint marker and you just draw just like if you were on a piece of paper. And if you haven't used paint markers before, they're pretty forgiving, and there's different thicknesses. This one is an Elmer's painter, and it says it's fine. Some of them, like this one, this is more of a broad tip. The broad ones I found as I was opening them and checking them, they had clogged up and dried themselves sealed. But don't hold it against them. The last time I painted rocks was years ago. That's why this one looked so terrible. So then you can take this and you can color it in. I'm going to color it a little bit, but I'm also going to leave an edge so that I can hit a little bit of black or take a paintbrush and put a little bit of silver in there. I'm just going to fill that in a little bit. And on this U, I'll probably have to touch it up. In fact, I'm just going to fill it in and then I'll trail through it. I know that a lot of you would like to see a lot more color, but remember that however you want to do it is completely up to you. And I love blue. I love royal blue, navy blue, blue and black, blue and silver. Okay, so there we go. Then I don't want to accent the word the very much. So this one is an oil-based Sharpie fine point, and I can take it and test it on the back just like I showed you. It's a little darker, a little less interesting. So I'm going to say, there we go. And for the word paint, I'm going to use something bright. And most of my markers are dead, so let's see how this purple one is. That's not going to work. So we'll try this one. If it doesn't work, we have some other red ones that we could use. Oh, that one's not. I don't know if you can tell in the camera, but it's almost like fuchsia. And so you can see, I don't want mine to be all matchy-matchy. I don't think this pen's going to make it all the way through, which is good that I don't want it to be too matchy. I like, kind of like on a scrapbook page, we would mix fonts sometimes with our headings and our letters. And so that's exactly what I'm doing here, is just mixing up the different fonts a little bit. There we go. Yeah, this pen is struggling, but I at least want to edge it with this, and then I'll go back and fill it with a different one. And I have some more fine point that I can go back and edge and touch up. And then the one thing to keep in mind too is, because I used the color for the rock itself straight out of the bottle, I didn't blend it, I can go back with a paintbrush and just, if one of these words turns out horrible, but I like the other words, I can cover that word up again and start over. So that would be the advantage to taking a color straight out of the bottle, is if you had a specific look you were going for and would be disappointed, then you could make changes. So I have that sort of fuchsia edge, and then I have a bunch of these red pens that I could fill in with. I think that'll be kind of fun. And those of you who are really into painting, like, my point is just to relax and have fun when I'm doing it. So here's an example. I could take some of that light blue paint or a light blue marker and put in the A, a little bit of space there. And because I have the paint straight out of the bottle that matches the base, I can make it look like I didn't mess it up. So I'm kind of trying to hurry just so you can see more the outcome and less the process. So you could do like welcome by your front door. You could do something that you like. I usually have this rock that I'm doing right now sitting on my deck. So when I sit and read on my deck or drink coffee, I see it and I think about it. And lots of times it inspires me to get up and finish a project instead of sitting around planning it for days. We all do that, don't we? I don't know. Maybe you guys don't. Okay. So I want to keep the on the small, and then I'm going to come in larger with the canvas. So I'm going to use the same brush. And I want it to be fun and kind of crazy. So I'm not going to do it straight. There we go. These are really nice ones. So this is a Sharpie. I bought these for a specific project, which explains why I have so many of them. And in the Sharpie, I have the extra fine too. So I can go back and touch those up perfectly if I want, which I may or may not do. Then, I don't think that I have, ooh, I do. Here we go. Let's try this one. This one's not going to make it for a whole word. It's going to be a disappointment. Same here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same blue one again. And that's always tricky to find the same blue one. And then I'll just, I can add some black around one of them, or I could use a tiny paintbrush and put some polka dots, whatever I want to do. This would be an example of, I should have left myself more room, but that's kind of the point of this phrase, at least in my family, is don't overthink it. Just do it. And I'm not an exerciser, so I'm not really a just do it, kind of go run a 5K kind of person. Okay, so you get the idea. Then I'll go back and I'll fill them in. And you can clean them all up. You can take a little tiny brush with the light blue that came in the bottle and paint around the edge. Or let me show you how it changes it when you take one of these extra fines. I'm not sure if it's dry enough, but we'll try it. It's not quite dry enough, but you get the idea. It just adds some interest. That's kind of clogged up. And you just touch up the very edge, and you can give yourself a nice crisp line if your paint pens aren't old. And also for the very detail, you want to be sure that you let it dry the rest of the way. So I hope that gave you some ideas, yard art, decorations for your deck, paperweights, who knows, whatever. Okay, I just wanted to show you a tiny clip after I worked on it for a few more minutes. The word canvas is still too wet to trim, so I'm going to leave that for now. But you can see how put and paint look very different, and the daylight is fading a little bit, but you can see that in the word paint I have a little bit of variation in color, and I've trimmed put and paint. Enjoy the spring weather and have a great day. Thanks so much for watching.